That's it. That's it. Oh, this is quite terrifying. And that was like such a good talk that this probably won't be as good. But anyway, yeah, no, I was blown away by that. And as somebody who's trying to farm on what was a clear fell, I can totally get about having depleted soil because I don't know if you know what it's like after a clear fell, but they reckon that they should leave about 10% of the timber lying so it will rot back into the ground and leave something. But if you think of big trees and how much they've taken out of the soil, the size they are when they've cut down, and they've taken 90% of them away, you're left with really, really depleted soil. So that's what I've got at the moment. And I've got a woodland croft in Bendelog, at the back of Bendelog, and I've got dairy goats, bees, poultry, and various groups of people from the community who come and use the croft. So I've got a couple of polytunnels and a veg garden where people come and grow veg. And it is basically just a project that's in its infancy at the moment. I've been there for 2 years, and the first year I was just putting through my crofting application, and I was running the community garden in Oban green shoots. But then when my crofting application came through, I moved the goats into the ground, and amazingly, you can see the difference in the ground just with them having been there for a year and a half. And you are starting to see grass coming up, and yes, they have like annihilated a lot of the willow, but some of the other trees are coming through. So yeah, it's good to see that progress. The three main themes that I've got, well, it's two really, for the not-for-profit business that I'm setting up at the moment, are sustainability. So that's like, don't kill anything, don't use any pesticides, don't pollute. And the other thing would be community, with a heavy emphasis on inclusivity. So that's people who are sort of marginalised in the community, or groups that aren't that well provided for. And the third theme, well, it's not really a third theme, it's more that the first two are integrated. So just to keep everything in a really holistic approach. So that's like following things from the whole process. Like, for example, we got acorns and we grew them into trees, and then eventually those trees will bear acorns. We harvested some clay off the beach, and we washed that as an activity, and then we've got a treadle wheel, so we made that into pots, and then we're going to build a kiln to fire it in, and just doing things right from scratch. I helped somebody shear some sheep, and we've carded some wool and spun it with different groups, and I've got this mad little knitting machine, so that even people with additional needs can do knitting on this machine. You just wind the handle, and it knits up a tube, and then you tie an end of it, and it's a hat. So just so that people can see where things come from, right from the sheep to the hat, or the acorn to the tree, the clay from the beach to the mug. Just because when you do things like that, when you follow full processes, instead of having like a waste product, you just kind of have more resources for the things that are left over. Because waste is just a sort of human concept. Animals don't have waste. You know, it's just more resources. As Roger was saying, the whole planet runs really well with a symbiotic relationship. And it's only people that say, oh, we need to buy this, and then we throw away the packaging, and we've got loads of waste. So it's getting rid of that whole concept of waste. Like, I have a composting toilet, and I have a muck heap for my animals' manure. And for example, when my groups are there, we will use the soiled hay and the manure, and we'll put that underneath a raised bed that we've made. And that will create a hotbed so that when we're growing veg, we're using it. So we don't really have a waste product. So that is a way that I'm trying to improve the heart of the croft as well. Is the food and stuff that I bring in that isn't going anywhere. So I'm just bringing more stuff in, and the animals and the humans are all contributing to the heart of the soil, basically, to bring more stuff back into it. And the groups that I have coming up at the moment are a group from Argyll, and I've got a history with them because I used to teach gardening at Argyll College in Oban, and I brought them with me when I went to Green Shoots, the group, and I've brought them to mine now, sort of steal them with me everywhere I go. And we've done loads of stuff together. We've been growing stuff, so they've grown stuff from seed that they've then harvested, and then we've cooked on a fire. I've got like a fire pit made out of a washing machine drum. So they've made soup out of the things that they've grown from seed. So that's a whole process again. We've done a bit of foraging. We've gathered blaeberries in the woods, and then we took them to a neighbouring farmer who has an ice cream business. So we gave her loads of blaeberries, she made sorbet, and we all got free ice cream. So that was great, and that's obviously continue with the theme on community as well, because we try and sort of share about and do things together. We gathered seaweed off the beach and put it on the potatoes. We gathered eggs from the poultry, made omelettes with homegrown spinach. There's one girl who's autistic, she always likes to come and walk my dog. I started milking during the day so that they could have a chance at milking. And we've made cheese, and I make soap as well. I can't do that with people because of the caustic things that you have to use, which isn't sort of like a bad thing. It's just like wood ash and water, but it makes a very caustic substance when you mix that with fat to make soap. So it's not something that I want to do with groups of people at the moment. But yes, we've done loads of things like that. But when I milk the goats and make cheese with people, I have to give them goat's milk from Tesco's and cheese from Tesco's because I haven't got the hygiene restrictions in place to try and jump through all the hoops that I can give it to them. And it's unpasteurised, which is illegal to give to people even in Scotland if they're not part of your family, which you think seems a bit terrible, but then when I looked into it, it was because back in 1987 there were a lot of people in Wishaw who died of Campylobacterial. So I was like, oh yes, no, I'm not going to give that to anyone. So that's, yeah, so what should I say? Argyll, that's a group of people that come up. I've also built a little hut for local childminders, and they come and take the people to play in the woods, and they feed the goats branches, and they feed the poultry. I've had the local Cub Scouts round. They come quite regularly. They've planted oak trees, which I told them it was better for them to plant than me because they will, when they're old men, they'll be able to see them as big trees, whereas I'll obviously be dead by then. So that amused them. And they've also, I got them to make, they picked brambles and we made jam on the little fire pit, and we also made pancakes and they got to eat them. And we made squirrel feeders to put up. And there's been other people who approached me who've said, will you have my son, say, somebody who's got additional needs, who's an adult, who's not in school being supported. So through direct payment, I've got 2 or 3 individuals that come up at different times and they help me as well. And I think it's really important for people like that to have real things to do, you know, to be building benches and raised beds, and I'll say, like, this is for the cubs or this is for the childminders, and they're really pleased that they're doing something that is important, because it is important, you know, to be providing resources for other people. And I've had the Barcaldine Primary School, they've got a tree nursery, and I've got a little tree nursery there as well, so I've been doing work with them. And the high school are bringing some school refusers, and I've worked with them before at Green Shoots, and I loved working with the school refusers because I really hated school, so that really resonates with me. So I'm hoping that they're going to help me build a Celtic roundhouse, which we could maybe use as a shelter, because the other group, which are not well provided for, is after school care for primary school kids in the area. A lot of working parents really struggle with that. So if I could pick up people after school, and then they could come and pick their children up at 6 o'clock or whenever they finish work. I think that would be great to have something that was outdoors, because as a child I used to play outdoors after school until my mum came home from the marine lab, but obviously that's not a thing that people can do nowadays. But I think it was really good to spend time outdoors after you've been in school all day, and it gives people, I don't know, I think it gives back something to children who are quite often just given screen time, and I think it's like, it gives people a lot more interest in protecting the environment if they actually spend time in it, basically. So I think that's an important thing for people and for their health and well-being as well. So that's another thing that I want to do in the future, and yeah, I think that's me just about out of time. I have lots more to rabbit on about, but yeah, it was just basically, I think the thing that I don't want there to be any, I don't want to use pesticides or anything like that when I'm getting rid of the rhododendrons and gorse bushes that I'm getting rid of, and I want to be able to use the proceeds of those things that I'm taking, like burning them in a big fire, making charcoal with the roddies and the gorse, so that again, you're not using chemicals and you're not polluting your ground, you're increasing the heart of it, but there's no waste products as well. And like when I put my polytunnel up, I had to cut down a load of willow trees, but I was able to feed the leaves of the willow trees to the goats. I was then able to shred the rest of the smaller branches for paths, and then I was able to use the bigger bits, the trunks, as a fence to keep the deer out of my garden for the veg. So yeah, it's getting rid of that concept that things are a waste product and trying to put that to good use so that everything's full circle. Okay, thank you.